So, hey guys, welcome back to Accelerated Investor. Hey, listen, I have just an incredible interview for all of you. Her name is Becca Hintergardt. She is the founder and CEO of Hint Investments. And today we're actually going to talk about international lifestyle planning. Becca is a multifamily syndicator. She has invested in multiple multifamily deals as a co-syndicator, as an operator. She used to live in the greater San Francisco Bay Area. And just here in the last 2 years, in the middle of COVID, picked up her family and made a bunch of different moves, pulled a bunch of different levers to ultimately move her family to what's called a blue zone in Costa Rica and live the ultimate lifestyle, the ultimate kind of, sun, fun, Caribbean lifestyle. So if you have any interest in retiring early, passive income, and living on a beach of your dreams, this is absolutely the interview that you want to listen to. So to jump into some of the content, Becca and I are going to talk about number one, international lifestyle planning, and the 6 specific steps that you need to take to set your life up to move internationally and live off of your passive income. We're also going to talk about number 2, her book, which is actually called The 6 Steps to Put Your Income on Autopilot and Move Overseas. So make sure you download that at hintinvestments.com. Number 3, we're going to talk specifically about how long it actually takes to set this up. And you'll be surprised, it doesn't take nearly as long as you think. Number 4, we're going to talk about the strategy of pulling the levers and putting the puzzle pieces together to create the income. Okay. It's a little bit of a Frankenstein approach. And finally, we'll talk about her model of creating additional passive income now that she lives in Costa Rica permanently, of creating additional passive income through multifamily syndications. You're going to love this interview. I loved it when I recorded it with Becca Hintergardt. Here we go.
Welcome to the Accelerated Investor Podcast with Josh Cantwell. If you're looking to retire early with forever passive income, you're in the right place. This podcast is the go-to destination for real estate investors, both active and passive, and multifamily apartment investors, both new, intermediate, and advanced. Now, sit back, listen, learn, and accelerate your business, your life, and your investing with the Accelerated Investor Podcast.
So Becca, listen, thank you so much for joining me on Accelerated Investor. I'm so excited to talk about international lifestyle planning with you. And I know you're doing this from Costa Rica, so you're living it. So how are you? And thanks for jumping on.
Oh, my pleasure, Josh. Thank you so much for having me. I listen to your podcast all the time, so I'm delighted to be here. And I'm coming at you from Nosara, Costa Rica, a boutique surf and yoga hub off the Pacific in Costa Rica. It's an amazing place. It's one of the blue zones of the world. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with these, but these are places where people live a very healthy lifestyle. And there's a large concentration of centenarians here. These are people that live to 100 years and beyond. And
I am familiar with blue zones, and I wish I could adopt that entire lifestyle. But my grandmother, who I just saw last night, is 94. And even though she lives in Youngstown, Ohio, which is not a blue zone, she lives very much a blue zone lifestyle. She gets up every day and she's constantly moving, walking, going to the garden. She's outside. She's been essentially eating organic vegetables and organic meats from the farm all of her life. And I'm like, hey, man, if you're looking for the fountain of youth, you just got to look at Gigi Fran. And she essentially is living the blue zone lifestyle. So actually, why don't we start with that, Becca? What is a blue zone and why did you move there?
Yeah, great question. Blue zone is, there's plenty of books on it, but it is a place where, just like your grandmother, people live healthy lifestyles. They profile the food that they eat, people that study blue zones. And it's very similar to maybe what your grandma's doing, organic food. They're out there working in the garden every day. There's a big part in being with family, having family around, which increases your level of happiness and your longevity. Other blue zones in the world are Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Sicily, and Guanacaste, Costa Rica. That's the province I'm at.
That's fantastic. So people ask about the fountain of youth that exists. It just depends on whether they want to adopt that lifestyle, but that lifestyle has been profiled, found many places, and identified in many books. And like you said, there's many centenarians, people that live to 100 and over, that live there. And there's a very specific way to do it. It's very possible. My grandma's been probably doing it by accident, but I know what it takes, what she's doing. So you moved there because you love this concept and you help other people basically execute this concept of international lifestyle planning. So when I say those words, what does that mean for you?
Right. That's helping people devise a plan to leave the rat race behind and do a bit of a salary arbitrage in which you can live in a tropical paradise for a fraction of the price that you can in the US, and maybe leave your job entirely if you have the passive income set up, as I profile in my quick guide and ebook, or just sort of straddle things part-time and not work as much as you need to. And we are living proof you can do this. We left the San Francisco Bay Area in August. I have two kids, 11 and 12 years old, and the school was a nightmare with the pandemic. It was such a joke with the schools, Josh, these boys are clever. These fifth grade boys would actually take pictures of themselves and put it on their backgrounds when they're on the Zoom call and then go play video games. Awesome. Brilliant. These clever guys. But you can imagine the disappointment as a parent, doing Zoom school. And so we just said, hey, everything at home in the San Francisco Bay Area was a minimized version of what we knew. All the sports camps, the school. Why don't we just pick up and go to a place where we don't know a minimized version of it? Mm-hmm. It's a version we never knew, and everything's new to us, and it's not a lesser version. So what we did is my husband quit his job. He's part of the Great Resignation, the white collar workers that leave it all behind. We rented our too big of a house in the San Francisco Bay Area that we bought 10 years ago. And we are here living off passive income, off that, our single family home and other multifamily investments that I'll be happy to tell you about later, but we're living proof you can do it.
That is so fantastic. So where, Becca, did this desire to have this international lifestyle come from? When did you discover this? Was there, kind of an event at work that just, you're like, I'm fed up and I'm done, I'm out moment? Or what was it like, or where did this come from? Because I think so many people want to do what you've done, live in a tropical paradise, live on passive income, but they just haven't been nudged out the door hard enough. It sounds like you were nudged hard enough that you're like, you know what, we're making this decision and we're going. Some people are just kind of stuck in their comfort. Yes. And they're so stuck in their consistent of their work life, busy lifestyle that they don't really execute on what they really want. So how did that happen for you?
That's such a good question, because I think one of the hardest things to do is leave when things are okay. Things are good enough. Things are comfortable. It's easy to leave when things are falling apart and you're very uncomfortable. But when things are status quo, it's hard to make such a bold move and take off. My husband and I were medical device sales reps. He's now in healthcare tech, was in the Bay Area. And we just needed a change. We needed to pursue a second language for the children. And as international citizens, it's very important to live abroad, at least for a little while. His health he had a lot of ailments, just kind of stress-induced things like asthma and strange allergies, food allergies, all kinds of stuff that didn't make sense. In 3 months here, Josh, gone. This biome, the tropical biome, the healthy living, all that medication that they gave him, he doesn't even need. The guy looks 10 years younger in just a matter of 8 months. And that happened in the first probably 2 months. He looked 10 years younger.
hair? Just curious.
He still has gray hair.
Oh, darn
But
it. Because I've got
think
plenty of hair to get rid of. That's what, they make dye for that. So I
big die for that. Yeah, you don't need to move abroad to do that.
yeah. Yeah. So the lifestyle was okay, not necessarily you guys were comfortable living in the Bay Area. Obviously, you have to make a good income to have that kind of lifestyle, very expensive city.
Mhm.
But it sounds like the pandemic and your kids' wellness of school and, basically learning school on Zoom, which is very, very difficult, was kind of a turning point. It was probably the linchpin that made it all. When the linchpin got pulled, you guys moved and decided to start over.
We did. Yeah. Yeah. And then, just the prospect of something better. What terrifies me is not the risk of moving overseas and something going wrong or things not working. You plan on that. That's the expat journey. The first 3 to 6 months, it's the expat journey. It's not easy. That doesn't scare me. But what scares me was to be there for another year in the San Francisco Bay Area with the schools minimized, the sports programs halfway closed, things being exactly the same, I find is more frightening than the prospect of something new.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I think from a medical, or I should say, a mental health perspective. I
Yes.
look at my own kids. My daughter Juliana's in 8th grade, my Alessandra's in 6th, and my Dominic's in 4th. And I was talking to my 8th grader. I said, by the time I was in 6th or 7th grade, like I had like a little childhood girlfriend, and we would hang out and we would go to dances and we would go over my buddy Freddie's house and a bunch of girls were there and a bunch of the guys were there. And we were doing a birthday party or a Friday night and the girls would leave and the guys would sleep over at our friend's house and we would laugh and we would goof off. And all of that's been ripped away from them. Right.
Right.
And now my daughter's going to go into high school. She's had almost none of that experience that we had. And you wonder about their mental health and their socialization and being able to do that with all that being pulled away. Now, thank God this year of her 8th grade has been fairly normal and she's kind of working into some of those things, but maybe a year and a half to 2 years delayed from what we did when we were kids, but critically important. And to just be outside and to be doing things for your own personal health and the socialization, the playing outdoors, getting away from technology, so critical to the development of young kids. And the lockdowns, I guess, we all thought it made sense when it was happening, but now that it's kind of over, it's like, we got to get these kids outside as fast as possible. Go have fun as fast as possible. Socialize with your friends as fast as possible. I don't know if you have any more comments on that about maybe even how they adjusted from the busy San Francisco life to Costa Rica.
Yeah. Well, I agree with everything you're saying in that it was very hard on the kids. And in general, they're saying it was about a 2-year learning loss for most of the kids. And then you wonder, what is the social loss there? So we left all that and came into a full social swing of things here. School's open. It's an outdoor school. The kids attended international baccalaureate school in between the jungle and the sea. It's outdoor classrooms, but a quality education. So it was a tremendous life gain. But all of it comes down to, can you do this? Can you work? Can you set up the passive income to make this possible? And what I really want to get out there with people is to let them know you can. And you'd be so surprised. It's not as hard as you think.
Yeah.
Even
Becca,
if
let's talk about this for a minute. You wrote this book, right? The 7 steps to put your income on autopilot and move overseas. Right. So we were talking before we hit the record button. My wife and I have a plan to move to Florida 4 years from now. It's not overseas, but it's South Florida, Naples, tropical area. And you wrote this. Can you execute on these 6 steps? And so let's just talk about this for a high level. Step us through, if somebody read the book, what are they going to get from it? Because I think everybody wants that, right? Who doesn't have a dream of having passive income from a business or from real estate or from multifamily apartments and being able to just go, whether it's Italy, whether it's Europe, whether it's South America, Hawaii, you name it, you've actually done it. So where do they start? Like, where did you start to make this a reality?
That is a great question. Well, first you have to look at your life. Take inventory of your life. What assets do you have? Do you have a home like what we did that we bought a home 10 years ago? We're real estate people, so we bought the worst home in the best area, knowing we could change the home, not the area. And take inventory of all your assets, such as your retirement accounts. Could these be working a little bit more for you? Are you of age to take distributions? Can you move some retirement accounts into solo 401ks, self-directed IRAs like we did? Look at your stock accounts. Are those really serving you once you look at what you could be doing in multifamily with those, considering the tax deductions and so forth? So first you kind of gather everything up, figure out where you could rearrange things and squeak out a little income. What many people overlook is the value of their primary residence becoming a rental property. And this is a huge one, because no longer, as we all read Rich Dad Poor Dad, no longer is it a liability if you're not living there. Once you move out and it's generating income, it's an asset. And you can deduct many of the repairs up to a year before your departure overseas, and sometimes even up to 2 years. So ladies, you want a kitchen remodel? You got it. Do it a year before. Do your bathrooms, do everything to command the very highest rent. And all of that is deductible because it's a rental property. Also, if you move overseas, coming back home to visit for the holidays, well, you have to visit your rental property, which is your primary residence in your area where all your family is. So that's deductible. So another chunk of this is much of your life becomes tax deductible.
Love it. Key. Love it. So taking inventory of what you have is hugely important, right? And you were smart enough to think ahead and start investing in multifamily that allowed this also to become a reality. So do we want to move on to step number 2, or do you want to talk more about how multifamily was part of you taking inventory to be able to execute this?
Well, we could go either way. I would say the folks could go through the quick ebook. You'll get through the 6 steps. But I would say, as we were talking about children before, assess if you have children and you're thinking of doing this. Don't worry, you can do it. You can pick up a family of 4, but you want to start with the school and then back it into the area from there. Don't make my mistake. First, I said exactly where I want to be is a very remote beach town living in a grass hut. And well, there's no schools around there. And then you're back to homeschooling. Right. So, okay, let's start with the school. And then we back it up into there.
That's fantastic.
And then the book will go into some other ways to assess the cost of living index in certain areas. It profiles the best places to live in 2022. The most affordable, the most popular amongst expats. So lots of resources and links within that book. It goes into talking about retirement accounts, how to restructure that. And then it will go into, which is our personal favorite, multifamily investing and the passive income and tax benefits you get from that.
I love it. Now, where can our folks get the book? I want it like right now. I want
it. Super easy read too. Super easy. You'd go to www.hintinvestments.com. It's HINT investments with an S.com.
Got it. Hintinvestments.com. That's your main website and your brand, your multifamily brand. So go there, guys, and download the book as soon as possible because we don't want to move and be neighbors with Becca.
I could love it.
Are you ready to automate and explode your real estate investing? We're searching for extremely motivated individuals who are sick and tired of wasting time and want to finally see real results from their real estate investing business. We're searching for investors looking to get to the next level and become a bigger, better version of themselves while being a more successful real estate investing entrepreneur. Apply for mentoring and coaching at joshcantwellcoaching.com/podcast. That's joshcantwellcoaching.com/podcast.
So let's talk about multifamily. So what part did multifamily play in your taking inventory? And how did you kind of set things up, and kind of how long did that take for you to buy some assets, own some cash flow? And then when you took inventory of your assets and income to be able to make the move, how long, I guess ahead, and what I'm asking is how long ahead do people need to plan to try to pull this off?
Right. In timeline, in talking to other expat friends, most people take about 6 months to plan the whole journey. And that so much of that's just getting rid of all your things at home, like garage sales every weekend, just putting out everything on Nextdoor, packing up your kids' 10,000 pieces of Legos and Barbies and all of that. And much of it's the elimination of things in that 6-month timeline. On the passive income front, this has been a bit of a life journey. I've been in real estate for about 18 years. And one of my first purchases was a duplex in San Francisco, 120-year-old Victorian building that it was only myself and a contractor bidding on it, which was a very bad sign, like this was going to end poorly. But it worked out, and did lots of work there, lifted up the building, put a garage underneath, charged another $500 for rent to do a garage, blew out the backside, condo converted it, everything, got it where I want. And that's a good appreciation play. So I believe in having an appreciation play in these kind of tough markets where you can't really cash flow, a Seattle, a San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York. So that was a set it and forget it appreciation play that has proved very valuable in our strategy of moving overseas, because once you build up the equity there, then you can pull the equity out and have a little flexibility in what you want to do next.
Nice.
So that's one prong of my strategy, and a good appreciation play. The second is multifamily, the benefits of multifamily investing and passive income and a tax deduction. That's the second prong of, I feel, a very diversified portfolio. And we've done a couple deals. We have a deal in Arizona we're still working on, and this was a hotel conversion. It was a 100-unit Quality Inn motel that we're converting to 65 units of multifamily.
Nice.
We bought this for 30 cents on the dollar in the hotel apocalypse. So the beginning
of COVID, right? Where nobody was traveling. So hotels just got demolished. And we have another podcast that we released maybe 3-4 months ago about hotel to multifamily conversions. So make sure you guys look that up on the website, check that out. But so you have this deal that you're still in the middle of. It's still in the conversion process.
Still in the conversion process. So we have that deal moving, and I have several passive investments too, of income that just helps this. And we're about 80% there on just stitching different things together. And a big chunk of it from our single family home where we used to live, that's now an asset, not a liability.
Nice.
So it's a lot of things stitched together.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, did you guys come up with an income number and say, this is the number that we need? And then, okay, what do we got? You said take inventory of what you got, whether it was retirement accounts, single family residence, some multifamily investments, maybe some limited partnership investments, maybe some active operator income, all these things stitched together. I love that word, stitched together. You kind of Frankenstein it together.
It is.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, bam, we've got 80% of what we need. So if what we need is X, you're at 80% of X, and you're kind of still building towards that. Versus so many people that are like, oh yeah, I would move overseas, but I could never do it. I got my day job, right? You know how many people I hear this W-2, it almost should be a 2-letter word that so many people should not be using. They get so trapped, right, by a W-2 income, golden handcuffs, retirement account, pension, bonuses, whatever. And people end up just never really fulfilling the ultimate life that they wanted when they were 18 or 25 or 29, freshly married. We're going to do all these amazing things. Now it's like, W-2, I'm handcuffed, I'm home, I've got my kids, they're in school. And hopefully we'll do this when we're 65 or 70 years old.
Yeah. Don't live the deferred life plan. You'd never regret it. You'd never regret bringing your children and your family overseas and having a different experience for all of them. I had even mentioned in this little side note, one day I was getting a little bit of fear, and I said, maybe, am I going to screw up my kids doing this? And I knew I wouldn't. One of my girlfriends said, you know what? You can screw them up more staying in the same place for 18 years of their life. And it's very true. So, there's a way to do this for, if people want to, you can find a way. And another thing is 80% of our income, it needs to be less here. it's not the pressure cooker of the Bay Area in what we needed to make there. It's a bit of lifestyle arbitrage. You can make money in the US and it goes a lot farther here.
Help us understand that. We've heard that many times. If you go to the hotspot, the tourists, if you're going to go to Rome, Italy, it's going to be more expensive, right? But if you're going to go to, going to go to Honolulu, it's going to be more expensive, not less. So we're not talking about that. What you're talking about is finding a place that is truly not off the beaten path, but it looks like somebody's getting in the pool behind. Man, that is the lifestyle.
My husband just got home from a walk on the beach. Now he's in the pool.
Perfect timing.
Sorry.
His clothes on. Jeez, that's fantastic.
Jesus.
Look at him.
He's covered him up. This is the real deal.
I want to jump in and share a beer with your guy. Look at him. That's so fantastic. But yeah, it's like, so talk a little bit, you mentioned it in the book, again, like the six steps to getting this income and then moving overseas. You identified and said there was affordable areas, right? So help people who don't understand that movement, that there are places that are coastal cities where there's very much a local culture, and how they would even, because some people could be like really overwhelmed by even trying to figure that out, or it's almost scary, or they think it's not safe. How did you guys, rectify that in your own mind to make the move?
Well, to our defense, we'd been here several times.
Okay, that's part of the strategy then, right? Go visit.
Yeah, go visit. Yeah, that's part of the. We have a couple of expat friends that had never been here, and they just bought a lot and built here. They bought a lot for 300, built for 5. Their house is now worth 1.4. So there's the huge real estate potential here as well. But for the most part, people that have come here have made 1 or 2 trips. They've gone to different parts of the country. I mean, you could do it in 5 days, drive around, see different towns that you like, that are a good fit. Start with the schools if you have a family, as I said. But it's surprisingly not that difficult. And that's where you start. First, kind of narrow it down to your continent, pick your country, pick a few areas within that country, and then pay a visit. We have other friends that were going to move to Panama, and then they had it all planned out, practically the house bought. Then they visited Panama and came to Costa Rica on their way back and decided to stay in Costa Rica. So that site visit makes a big difference. Yeah, I'd highly encourage anybody to do it.
Becca, so guys, you listen, you got to download this book. This is the first thing I'm going to do when I'm done with this recording, is download this book and get myself ready for 4 years from now. Maybe we'll switch from Naples to Costa Rica or something.
Oh, yeah. Costa Rica, Ecuador is amazing also.
I have heard. So how long do you think, once somebody takes inventory, and let's say they have some investments, they've kind of, like you said, they're starting to piece it together, they're Frankenstein, they're pulling it together, but let's say they're missing some pieces, based on your real estate experience, how long do you think it might take? And I know there could be 1,000 answers to this, but just in your opinion, what do you think, how long would it take for someone to start to buy the assets, buy some multifamily buildings, some apartments, do some conversions to create some passive income, and then make this a reality? Are you talking 2 to 4 years? What are your just thoughts on, if they don't have the whole thing put together and they're kind of, some of it's got to start from scratch? How long could it be until they can execute this and make the move?
I think you could realistically do it in a year.
Okay.
Just going back, looking at your assets, taking some things out of stock, putting them into multifamily assets, looking where you may have other equity plays that you can take some money out and put into multifamily and start setting up that income with multifamily. And that's the easiest way to start, because these deals will cash flow, pretty much from the start. A lot of them are value add plays, but you can find cash flow deals from the start, or you could get into a deal in the next couple months and have the value add in place and then start cash flowing a year down the road. But yeah, figure about 6 months to just get rid of your stuff, get your house rented, figure out where to go. During that 1 year, set up your assets, determine the price it is to live and where you want to go. I have a cost of living index link in that book as well. So you could back into that. How much will you need? And then, enter into several multifamily deals within that year. It'd be very doable, very, very doable. What I do in my business, Josh, my business model is a co-GP model.
Mm-hmm.
So I combine my money with investor money. I vet the deals. We choose the best sponsors in the best markets, emerging markets with good value add plays. We employ 3 levels of underwriting. On the last step, an institutional underwriter to make sure the deal is rock solid.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go into deals with our investors.
Nice.
And that really shortens the learning curve for a lot of folks that might even be considering this, that you can reach out to me and invest side by side with us, because that's what we do.
And guys, listen, as my brain is just on fire right now, Becca. So I want to thank you for that, to jump on with me. Because I'm getting so much out of this, my mind's really spinning. But one of the things that's going through my mind is all the levers that you're intentionally moving to make this a reality. And I think so many people are just floating through, like a speck of dust that's getting pushed around by the currents of the air, and they're letting the world and their life just get pushed wherever the world wants to take them, versus you're standing like a statue in exactly where you want to be, very firm, on a firm foundation. And you pulled all these levers. So I just want to recognize some of these levers. First of all, number one, you took 6 months to actually plan it. So you pulled that lever, wrote it down, talked to your husband, talked to your kids, pulled the lever. Number two, you decided to downsize your expenses. You got rid of a bunch of stuff. You held the garage sales. You put things on Nextdoor. You sold off things. You took that income. Number three, the next lever, you moved some stuff out of stock investments, put them into multifamily that would cash flow. Okay. Number four, you moved to a more affordable part of the world where you could have just as much of a luxurious lifestyle, but just flat out cost less. Okay. Number five, you looked at schooling and said, well, do I want my kids to be stuck on Zoom for the next couple of years, or do I want them to be in a real school? So you actually vetted out and looked at the school systems, the areas, the blue zone, right? So I think at the end of the day, guys, my audience needs to realize that what Becca did was not a mistake. She didn't just land in Costa Rica living this unbelievable life on accident. She was super intentional about it. She pulled all kinds of levers to make it happen. And Becca would probably tell you, and she'll tell you in the book, this is not anything that, and no, this is not over and above everybody else's head. This is so doable, but you have to think. It was called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, love that book.
Just, float through the air like everybody else and grow rich. It was called Think and Grow Rich.
Think and grow rich. Don't follow the line in what everybody else is doing. How about lifestyle by design? Think for yourself and grow rich.
That's right. Lifestyle by design. That sounds like a great
location independence and lifestyle by design.
I love it. Well, Becca, listen, I'm going to tell my audience again to go get this book, and I'll be downloading it in about 5 seconds. So hintinvestments.com. Make sure all of you go download Becca's book. Connect with Becca. She's got investment opportunities. I'm sure if you guys are passive investors and want to invest, she's building her community. And for those of you that really have a desire to live this international lifestyle and to be able to do ultimately what we all thought about what we do, we would retire early and drink Mai Tais on the beach. Becca's one of the very few who pulled all the levers to make it happen. So Becca, I just want to congratulate you on thinking like so many people don't do. Congratulations on that, and being such a strategist around making this happen for your family and for your kids. I'm in awe of you. I love it.
Oh, thank you, Josh. And what a great summary. And thank you so much for having me on your show. And please, any of your listeners, reach out. I would love to help and guide you in this journey. It's truly a transformational one.
I love it, Becca. Thanks so much for joining us today on Accelerated Investor.
Thank you, Josh. It's been a pleasure.
Oh man, guys, there you have it. I mentioned the book already multiple times. You better be downloading that at hintinvestments.com. I already downloaded it myself. Make sure you check that out. If you enjoyed this interview, which I just thoroughly loved, you need to go leave us a 5-star review. If you have any interest in retiring early, moving to a luxurious location, living on a beach, you finally have the blueprint on exactly how to do it. You can pull it off. I promise you, you're going to love it. And so if you enjoyed the interview, leave us a rating, leave us a review, share this all over social media. I would be so grateful if you would do that for me and for Becca. Thanks so much for being here today on Accelerated Investor.
You were just listening to the Accelerated Investor Podcast with Josh Cantwell. If you enjoyed this episode and learned something new, help us build the AI community by leaving a review and 5-star rating on our iTunes podcast channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. To see passive investing opportunities, visit freelandventures.com/passive. To start your journey toward the lifestyle you've always dreamed of with multifamily apartments, apply for one-on-one coaching with Josh at www.joshcantwellcoaching.com.